what's up YouTube? It's Brian with Radical Prep. We're doing more SAT problems. This is from the second official SAT practice test. It's online. I'll put a link in the video. We're going to do 25 minutes to try and get 20 questions done. No calculator on this section. Let's begin. 5x plus 6 is equal to 10. What is the value of 10x plus 3? I would just do the algebra real quick and get it done. So I'd minus 6 on both sides, minus 6. 5x equals 4. Divide by 5, divide by 5. You get x equals 4/5. And then I would just plug that into this equation here. So that's 10 times 4/5 plus 3. 10 over 5 is 2. 2 times 4 is 8. 8 plus 3 is 11. Choice C. You're done. All right, next one. Number 2, systems of equations problem. Which of the following ordered pairs satisfies the systems of equations? You could go through and try and plug each of these in. I'm just going to show you how to do the algebra real quick. I'm going to multiply. Let's do everything times 2, and you'll see why. That's going to be 2x plus 2y equals 0. And I still have the bottom equation. Minus 2y equals 10. Let's add the two equations. The reason we're going to add them is because my 2y and my negative 2y will cancel out. So 2x plus 3x is 5x. 2y plus negative 2y is 0. 0 plus 10 is 10. That means x is 2. All right. Well, if x is 2, gone, gone, gone. Choice B, and you're done. That's it. Move on. Next question. Number 3. Let me just move the screen here. Sorry. I got the pen on, so if I try and scroll and use the pen at the same time, it gets a little wonky there. All right. So we got this problem. It's more of a word problem. It says a landscaping company estimates the price of a job in dollars using the expression 60 plus 12 NH, where N is the number of landscapers who are working and H is the number of hours that will take these N landscapers. So we've got number of landscapers and we've got the hours it's going to take them to, I guess, complete the job. Sorry, I'm just going to try and scroll this out a little more. Which of the following is the best interpretation of number 12 in the expression? All right, so the company charges $12 per hour for each landscaper. That sounds pretty good. I'm going to hold on to that one. A minimum of 12 landscapers will work on each job. Usually when there's a minimum or maximum, you see values like this or words like less than or greater than. I don't see that anywhere in the problem. That's gone. The price of every job increases by $12 every hour. Well, that'd only be true if you had like one worker doing it, but you don't. You probably have, what was it? N workers. So maybe if there was one worker, fine, but when you have N workers, it's 12 N an hour or whatever the case is. Each landscaper works 12 hours a day. Well, we don't know that because we don't know how long the job is going to take. That's H. I'd say A is your best answer, and A is correct because if you think about it, how are you going to figure out how much a landscaper or the project costs? It's how many people you got working on the job, how many hours they're working, times what do you pay them? So that 12 that you see over there is what you're paying them. That's the only way you can really think about it. And that 60, that's like a flat fee. So maybe that's like saying if I come and do the job for you, automatically I charge you $60, something like that. All right, let me clear that out. Let's go and look at number 4. Okay, which of the following is equivalent to the expression shown above? So we've got 9a to the 4th. We got this whole expression up there. So you're going to have to double bubble this. And I'm not asking you to do the work right now. I'm just asking you to think about it logically. How do you get an a to the 4th? Well, it's going to be an a squared times an a squared. And how do you get a b to the 4th? That's a b squared and a b squared, right? And all the signs inside are positive. So we've got positive signs inside. How do I get a 9? Well, it's going to be 3 times 3. How do I get a 4? 2 times 2. So you want something like this, 3a squared plus 2b squared, 3a squared plus 2b squared, and you got 2 of them, right? So that's really 3a squared plus 2b squared, and the whole thing squared. And that's it. K is greater than 0 and x is equal to 7 in the equation above. What is the value of k? All right, all I'm going to do, I'll just add x to both sides. Oop. Add x, so I get 2k squared plus 17 equals x. Then I'm going to square both sides. This is just basic stuff you should know how to do. So I get 2k squared plus 17 equals, oh, it told us x was 7. So 7 squared is 49. Minus 17. So that's 2k squared equals, what is that, 32? 32. Am I doing that right? Yeah, 32. Divide by 2. K squared equals 16. And what squared gives you 16? 4. That's it. All right, I want to show you a super easy way to do number 6. It says in the xy plane above, line L is parallel to line K. What is the value of P? So they're trying to figure out, you want to know the x value of this point right here. Or what is the value of point P? So you can use the slope formula, you know, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. You're not going to do that. Here's the quicker way. Just figure out the slope by using rise over run. So this goes from 0 up 2, right? From 0 to 2. So that goes up 2, rise of 2, and it goes to the right what? From negative 5 to 0. So the right 5. So the slope is 2/5. So let's do the same slope over here because it says they're parallel. Parallel lines have the same slope. So this goes up 2, up, over 5. So that point's got to be on the line. So that went over 5. This is going to go again up 2 and over 5. Right? So how far did we go altogether? We went 10. We went 10 units to the right. So the answer is 10. And you're done. That's as easy as it gets. All right, number 7 looks like this. It's got a bunch of exponents, and the tricky part about this question is they're just testing to see if you know your exponent rules. So when I look at this part of the equation, I see same bases, right? We have like bases. So when I'm doing division, I subtract. So that's x to the a squared minus b squared. And they tell you the whole thing's equal to x to the 16. Well, cool. Now that I have the same bases, and they're telling me these two things are equal, I can just set the exponents equal. So that's a squared minus b squared equals 16. What else do we know? Well, they tell us a plus b equals 2. Well, where does that show up? That shows up in here because I'm just going to expand this expression out, right? So that's a plus b times a minus b. And you guys should know that, right? Okay, so a plus b is 2. That part's 2. So it's 2 times something equals 16. Well, this piece has to equal 8. And you're done. That's it. All right, number 8 says the measure A in degrees of an exterior angle of a regular polygon is related to the number of sides n of the polygon by the formula above. So I already get confused when I read stuff like this. So I'm just going to write A equals, let's see, exterior angle degrees. Okay, and n is the number of sides. Number of sides. That's going to help me just sort all this nonsense out. Okay, if the measure of an exterior angle of a regular polygon is greater than 50, so this apparently has to be greater than 50 degrees, what is the greatest number of sides it can have? So the nice thing when I see this last part, greatest number of sides it can have, I just go to the biggest answer and start there and work my way down. So let's say greatest number of sides it can have. So that means number of sides is n. So that means the n is 8 for this choice D. So let's just plug it in to the equation that we see at the top. All right. So that's 8 times some angle gives me 360. Well, I'm just going to divide by 8, right? So I don't have to do all the work out. I don't have a calculator on this section anyway, right? But if you just think about it, 8 into 36, well, it only goes 4 times, right? So already the angle, what was this, 32? I'll just do it out real quick. That's 40. So that's 45 degrees when our n is 8. So this doesn't work, right? So D is wrong. But really, if you think about it, just to speed things up, let's just do choice C now. Let's try that. 7, okay? So 7 times some angle equals 360. Well, 7 times what gives you 36? Or 7 times 5 is 35, and 5 and a little bit would give you 36. So this actually works, right? Because you get a number that's bigger than 50. And if you did it out, just to show you, if you don't believe me, I know this is taking up a little more time, but 7, 360, 7 to 36, we can do 5 times, 35, you're left over with 10. So it's going to be 50 something. So this is okay because we're greater than 50 degrees. So C is your answer. I hope that made sense. All right, number 9 says the graph of a line in the xy plane has slope 2 and contains the point 1, 8. The graph of a second line passes through the points 1, 2, and 2, 1. If the two lines intersect at point AB, what is the value of AB? I'm not going to get super technical and super algebra, man. I'm just going to draw a picture. When all else fails, just draw a stinking picture. So it's on point 1, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 1, 8 is there. And the slope is 2. So it goes rise over run. Up 2 over 1. But we're going to go in the reverse direction. Down 2 over 1. Down 2 over 1. So I got to go this way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We'll just do 6. Down 2 over 1. And down 2 over 1. So there's my line. And I guess I can make it's going to look crappy, but the points are there. That's all we care about. Okay, now the other one passes through the point 1, 2 and 2, 1. So what's the slope of this line? It goes down 1 over 1, down 1 over 1. So let's do that in the opposite direction. Up 1, left 1. I know it looks a little screwy, but it still works as long as our tick marks are okay. Up 1, left 1. All right, so look, I can even get this right with a crappy picture. So now, that's the point we care about right there. What is that point? Well, that point is -1, right? We're just going this way. -1, 1, 2, 3, 4. -1, 4. And we add these points together. A plus B, -1 plus 4 is 3. You're done. Move on. All right, so number 10 is also a graphing problem. It says, which of the following equations has a graph in the xy plane for which y is always greater than or equal to -1? So again, I'll draw my super crappy graph, but whatever. As long as you make your intervals and everything work out, doesn't really matter. Okay, so it wants all the y's to be greater than -1. So I'll just draw, a few tick marks here. 1 and 2, and y equals -1 goes through here, right? There's the y value right there, so that's y equals -1. Okay, so we want graphs that go above that. So let's look at an easy one, a quadratic first, or a squared one. The shape of y equals x squared is a smile, right? Positive in front of the x is x squared. Or a positive in front of the x squared means it's a smile. But here's the only issue. Normally, and I'll use a different color, it'd be here, and it would look like this. There's x squared, right? But when you minus 2 here, that actually shifts it down 2. So you got to know your transformations. Anytime the number is a negative or negative outside, it shifts it down. So that actually is going to be a problem. Okay, so this one is gone. It got shifted down 2. So it's below that -1 line. Let's look at, let's look at A. You should know what an absolute value looks like. It looks like a V, right? Looks like that. But again, -2. So normally, I'll use a different color. Normally that would look like this, and you should be able to graph something like that. But again, it gets shifted down too. You got to know your transformation rules, and I've got videos on that. So that one's gone. So hold on now, which one looks good? Well, C's looking really good to me because, and I'll just use black for this one, I guess, because that's a quadratic that gets shifted to the right. So when it's in the parentheses, it does the opposite. -2 shifts a quadratic to the right, +2 shifts it to the left. So this is actually x minus 2 that got shifted to the right. So it looks like that. Sorry this just gets all bunched up, but I hope you were able to follow that. That's basically a graph, right, that gets shifted over like this. So that quadratic always has values that are greater than y equals -1. Choice C, you're done. All right, for number 11, we've got this expression, and when you're dealing with imaginary numbers or radical -1, the method that I learned in school was just to multiply by the conjugate. I think that's what it was called, and I'm sure you guys will let me know if I'm right. But all you're going to do is multiply by kind of the opposite of the bottom. So this is going to be 8 minus 2i. And the reason you do that is because when you multiply the bottom by this expression, it cancels out all the i's and gets rid of the middle terms. So watch. Let's do the bottom first. So you're just foiling here, right? So first, 64. Outer is going to be 8 and a -2i, which is -16i. And when you go to do the inners, you get +16i. So they cancel out. So no inner terms. When you go to do last with FOIL, 2i times -2i is going to be a -4i squared. And what is I? Is radical -1. And you square it, you just get -1. So this is really -1. So the bottom, you get 64 minus, that's a -4 times a -1, which is 4. So in the bottom, you get 68. Okay, what about the top? Let's FOIL the top. And again, you're just foiling, right? First, outer, inner, last. So 3 times 8, 24. Inner, or it doesn't matter. We can do outer. -6i, inner, -40i, and last, that's 10 times I squared. But again, what is I squared? I squared is -1. So that's going to be the last terms when you do them is 10 times -1. That's -10. Okay? Do the whole thing out in the paper. We're trying to save time on the test. So 24 minus 10, I'm doing this one and this one to simplify, is 14. -6i minus 40i is minus 46i. But what's the problem now? Well, none of these choices are there, right? So we're just going to simplify this. Let's do that. Let's divide everything by 2. So that's 7 minus 23i all over 34. That looks a lot like this one. And hopefully we got the signs right, because this one looks a lot like it too. But again, this simplifies into choice C. You can break it up as 7 over 34 minus 23i over 34, because the denominators are the same. Same thing, okay? Choice C, you're done. All right, the nice thing for number 12 is that I'm not even going to try and do the problem. Or I'm going to try and do it. I'm just not going to read it, because my equation has R equals, and all my answers have F equals, so that just tells me you get F by itself. So how am I going to do that? Well, I'm just going to put this over 1, and I'm going to cross multiply, okay? So that means F equals Rn plus Rf. I'm going to get the Rn to the other side, okay? So it's F minus Rn equals Rf. I'm going to then minus the F, right? You'll see why this is helpful. So we get minus Rn equals Rf minus F. Okay, so watch what I'm going to do. I'm just going to factor out an F. So that's R minus 1. And let me rewrite Rn on this side. I'm going to divide by R minus 1 to get rid of it. Divide by R minus 1 to get rid of it. Boom. And we got F equals negative Rn all over R minus 1 Where is that? Oh, okay. Yeah, that's actually this choice, B. If we multiply both the top and the bottom by -1, it's just the way we do it, or the way we ended up doing this problem. That gives you Rn positive divided by, and that's going to turn into 1 minus R. We're just changing the signs. Choice B, you're done. All right, this is number 13. It says, what is the sum of all the values of m that satisfy this equation right here? I look at this, the first thing I want to do is divide everything by 2, because they're all even numbers, right? And I'll get rid of the number in the front. So we get m squared minus 8m plus 4 equals 0. So then you might go to double bubble this, as I'm sure a lot of you have done. And you put m there, you put m there. You say, how do I make a 4? Well, it's 2 and 2, and I need negative numbers, right? But the problem is when you do your inner and your outer, you don't get -8. You get -4m. So something's wrong here. This is not the right double bubble. So what do you do in a situation like that? Well, you use your quadratic formula. X equals -b plus or minus radical b squared minus 4ac all over 2a, right? Okay, so let's use our reduced version of the equation. So -b, that's going to be -8, or just 8, plus or minus radical b squared is 64, minus 4a is 1, and c is 4. Okay, remember this is, the number here is a, there's your b, there's your c. And 2a is just 2 times 1, which is 2. Remember, it's just a number in front of the m, which is a 1. So that's 2 times 1. Okay, so let's simplify what's in the radical. That's going to be 64 minus 16, which is 48. Hopefully you should just be able to do that. I'm not going to go into the math or writing it down. You should be able to do it. And that's still divided by 2. So I'm running out of space here, but I need to simplify this radical 48. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to write it all over here. 8 plus or minus, and I'm going to change radical 48 into radical 16 times radical 3. It's a legal math move, right? And you should know why I did that. Because radical 16 is just 4. So now I've got 8 plus or minus 4 radical 3 all over 2. And the last thing I can do is divide out that 2, right? So it's going to be 4. You got two answers here. 4 plus 2 radical 3. And you get 4 plus 2 radical 3 and 4 minus 2 radical 3. Sorry. So those are your two answers. Now what does it want? It wants the sum of all the values of m that satisfy this. Well, here's your two m's, your two answers, right? Well, it's 4 plus all that junk, 4 minus all that junk. And when you add them, because they're asking for the sum, this plus this, these pieces cancel out. And you're just left with 4 plus 4, which is 8. Choice D. You're done. All right, number 14 says a radioactive substance decays at an annual rate of 13%. If the initial amount of the substance is 325 grams, which of the following functions models the remaining amount of the substance in grams t years later? Well, first of all, the initial amount always goes on the outside. That's your starting value. So C and D are gone instantly. Okay? So then the question is, do you want 0.87 or 0.13 here? Well, if you're decreasing by 13% a year, here's the trick. You really want to think about that in terms of 100%. So if you lost 13%, you're really multiplying every year by 0.87, right? So here's 325. After your first year, if it was just 1, you multiply by 0.87. If t was 2, it's this amount times another 0.87. So that's really, it's another way of thinking about it. You're taking 87% of whatever you got last year. And then next year, you'll take 87% of that. Okay? So choice A is the one you want here. And if you did the math out, I'm not going to do it now, just know that that's the trick. If you lost 40%, hypothetically, if it was a loss of 40%, what do you think would be in the parentheses? It'd be 0.60. If you lost 22%, what do you think would be in the parentheses? Well, 100% minus 22% is 0.78. So that's how you're going to think about those problems. All right, move on. All right, number 15, it wants to know the expression 5x minus 2 over x plus 3 is equivalent to which of the following? You know what? I'll just take a different approach for this one today. I'm just going to plug in. Let's do x equals 3. So that means 5 times 3 minus 2 all over 3 plus 3. And what does that give us? 15 minus 2. So that's 15 minus 2 is 13. 13 sixths. All right. Did I screw myself? Let's see. 13 sixths is the magic number. All right. So which one of these is equal to 13 sixths? Well, it's definitely not that one. That's going to be 5. Let's simplify this. That's going to be 3 over 3. Right, I want a common denominator. So it's 15 over 3 minus 2 over 3. Oh boy, what do you know? That's going to be 13 thirds. Dude. Not right. X is 3, so that's 5 minus 2 sixths. Right? And we knew from previously, let's see, that's 6 over 6. So that's 30 over 6 minus 2 over 6, which is 28 over 6. So by default, we really better pray that D is the answer. But let's just do it. 5 minus 17 all over 6. And from the previous problem, we knew that when we simplify 5, that's going to be 30 over 6 minus 17 over 6, which gives us 13 over 6. Of course, it was the last one. We should have started with the last one. Choice D. That's it. Move on. All right, this is the bonus question. The sales manager of a company awarded a total of $3,000 in bonuses to the most productive salespeople. The bonuses were awarded in amounts of $250 or $750. If at least one $250 bonus and at least one $750 bonus were awarded, what is one possible number of the number of $250 bonuses? So all I would do is I would just say, hypothetically, let's say we had two $750 bonuses, so that's $1,500. So we have a total of what, $3,000? So that means another $1,500 has to be in $250 bonuses. So how many is that? Well, 4 of them gives you 1,000. So you need 6 of them, right? 6 times 250. 6 times 250. We do the math real quick. 0, 30, 12, 1,500. Yeah, it's 6. So in this scenario, that's one possible 6. That's your answer. Move on. All right, number 17. Got this example here. In the equation above, a, b, and c are constants. If the equation is true for all values of x, what is the value of b? All right, so it looks like they want you to do some multiplying here. So let's see. Okay, well, you're not going to do the workout because what you want to notice is that that is the same as this. So when you factor that out, that's 3x plus 5 times 2x plus 3. Okay, that's all really you're doing there. So now we just FOIL it. So first, 6x squared, outer is 9x, inner is 10x, and last is 15. So you get 6x squared plus 19x plus 15. And what does it want to know? What is the value of b? 19. You're done. So all came from the fact that you had to factor out these terms, and all you're left with is 2x plus 3. All right, that's it. All right, so number 18. This one says in the figure above, AE is parallel to CD, and segment AD intersects segment CE at B. Okay, what is the length of CE? So what they want the length of the entire segment there. And they told you this is the key information, AE is parallel to CD. And basically what they're telling you is that you have a transversal. You have something like this, right? This one's parallel to this one. You get angles that are equal, right? That one's equal to that one. That one's equal to that one, and so forth. So that means, you know, it's the shape is there. They just cut off the other lines, right? So that means this one equals this one, and this one equals this one, and these are intersecting, right? So you have two similar triangles, which means that the sides are in proportion. So if this is 5 and this is 10, it got doubled. This is on the bigger side, that's 8, so that's got to be 4. So the whole thing is 12. And it's really that simple. I can make it more difficult and more complex by talking about similar triangles, but just know that similar triangles, their sides are in proportion. And you just got to recognize that you have two similar triangles. Let's move on. All right, number 19, and this one says the XY plane above, O is the center of the circle, and the measure of angle AOB is pi over A radians. What is the value of A? Well, there's probably a couple of ways to do this, but the way that I kind of got to it was that on the old SAT, and especially on this SAT, it pays to know the 30, 60, 90 triangle, right? And those legs are in the ratio of x rad 3, 2x. So when I saw this triangle here, or this point here of radical 3, 1, I thought to myself, well, if I just drop the height, is it a right triangle? And I'll expand it here. So if it is, the x value is radical 3, right? So that means you went radical 3 over to the right, and then you went 1 up. Okay, so that's kind of looking like a 30, 60, 90 because the sides are in the ratio of x rad 3, right? The other side is radical 3 times it. So let's say this is a 1 rad 3 2 triangle, or a 30, really what I'm saying is a 30, 60, 90. So that means that that length would be 2. Okay, you can do it by Pythagorean theorem and you get 2, but I'm using the shortcut here. So now, which sides are which, or which angles are which? Well, the one opposite the 1 is 30, so that's 30 degrees. The one opposite the rad 3 is 60. There's 60, and of course that's 90. Okay, so how does that help us? Well, it wants to know what is the measure of angle AOB. And that's actually that angle there. Well, it turns out it's 30 degrees. But the only problem is we're in radians. So how do I convert to degrees? Well, this is pi over A radians. And if you want to convert to degrees, it's 180 degrees over pi radians. Pi radians. Okay? So that means that that's going to cancel out, cancel out, cancel out, cancel out, and you're left with 180 over A. This is the important part, to know what you're multiplying by. So now the question is 180 over A degrees should equal 30 degrees. Well, 180 divided by what gives you 30? And the answer is 6. So A equals 6. So we're just trying to get a number to show that this was a 30, 60, 90, or that was 30 degrees. If you got a better way of doing it, email it to me or post it. I don't care. We're here to help everybody out. All right, so number 20 looks kind of tough, but it's actually, there's a nice explanation to this. In the system of equations above, A and B are constants. If the system has infinitely many solutions, what is the value of A over B? And you can see A and B are the coefficients in this top system, or this top equation. So first of all, what does it mean to have infinitely many solutions? Well, if you think about it, in a normal system of equations, you're going to have two lines that intersect, and there's one solution right there. So that's when they just intersect. So then you have another scenario where, you know, two lines intersect, or two lines are parallel, let's say, and there's no solutions, right? Because they never hit. So the third scenario that they're talking about here, just so we know about it, is infinitely many. And what do you think that is? Well, that's when two lines sit directly on top of one another, right? Every single point that they have is a solution because they both sit on top of one another. So that is, and I'll just put it like this, infinite solutions, because they go on in either direction infinitely. So how does that help us? Well, if two lines sit on top of one another, they have to have the same exact equation, okay? So same exact equation. That's the most important thing I'm going to tell you. So how do we do this? How does that help us? Well, here's how. For this problem, this equation has to look identical to this one, okay? So first thing we're going to do is we're going to divide the second equation by 5. And the reason I pick 5 is because that's going to make 60 divided by 5 is 12. So let me rewrite this again real quick. ax plus by equals 12. 2/5 x plus 8/5 y equals 12. So nice. The numbers that are set equal to are the same. So now, for these two equations to be exactly the same, a has to equal 2/5. So a is 2/5, and b has to equal 8/5, right? Because that would make the two equations identical. What is the value of a over b? So now we're just dividing. So that's going to be 2/5 a all over 8/5. And the 5's cancel out, right? And you're left with 2 over 8 or 0.25. Final answer, and you're done. So the goal here was to make both of these equations the same. And there's other ways to do that, but the main thing is whatever you have to do to make them identical, that's how you're going to solve the problem. All right, good luck, guys.